it's more about a conscious connection with a higher power.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Lyfe Choyces podcast.
Yeah! Very forthcoming. You're 11 years sober.
Yeah.
And quick backstory, what was the catalyst? What age did it happen that you became
It's a great
an
question.
addiction?
It was 29. I got sober. So next month I'll be turning 41. How about that? And was able to actually put together my entire 30s without a drink.
Wow.
And that's pretty impressive. Throughout my 20s, I was able to consecutively chain together 7 straight days of sobriety, and that was it. So I was kind of like fully down for it. And at some point, it just the pain became too great. And back where I was from, I know that there's recovery and sobriety in that community, but I just wasn't aware of it. And the people that I associated with weren't really part of that either. Imagine that. And so what ended up happening for me was, a lot of those people were either going to prison or they were dying. And I found out that there was another option, and ended up, coming down to South Florida and kind of becoming a part of this whole recovery community down here. And it's been a life quite literally beyond my wildest dreams. I didn't know what to dream for originally. I had no idea what to even conceive at that point.
So in your 20s, you were more of like a lost soul. I mean, that's kind of the time that most of us start adventuring through alcohol.
And Bradley, to be honest, like I think there's a part of me that feels like I was always like that. There was always some kind of deficit or hole that was in me before. Oh, this is getting heavy quick, man.
It does.
Before it was, various substance abuses, it was self-harm, and that was something even at an early age that I engaged in because I didn't know how I fit into all of it. I knew I had some skills, I had some abilities, but making it all work socially was so difficult sometimes that I just felt so alien. And now I found my people, and I'm home now.
Yeah, it's really difficult, especially when we're teenagers and young adults trying to filter through this journey of life. I've been very forthcoming with our audience about the fact that I have the 𝐬𝐲𝐫𝐞 tattoo. There you go. So again, just to remind the audience, the 𝐬𝐲𝐫𝐞 tattoo represents in the English language that the sentence is not yet finished, and in the life of self-harm or suicide, it means that my journey is not yet over. Absolutely. And so I always get teared up a little bit of it because it's hard for people to understand, especially when they know their friends so well and they don't see their friend's life as being so difficult or being to the point of like having them think that they need to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Like I've been very forthcoming with what I went through as a child. Was just I had a hard time fitting in, and maybe that was my own stuff in my own brain, but it got to the point where later on in my life, like it wasn't odd to think about it once a week, like how to do it, what would happen if it did happen, and
it just was always there, almost like a shadow or something.
Yeah,
it's just constantly following me around. And I, to their credit, Mom and Dad, love you guys so much. I had a wonderful upbringing. I had an
100%.
incredible upbringing. There was a darkness inside of me from as long as I can remember. And once I found that chemical release from it, I was like, this is the solution. And I didn't appreciate at the time that the solution was really the undoing.
And isn't it such a unfortunate situation because alcohol is so much more allowed or accepted than drugs are. Yeah. And yet it seems to be the thing that most people at a young age go to escape, right, to get better from what's bothering them inside of their mental capacity. And yet it's probably the worst thing they could be doing.
Absolutely.
And we don't find this out until later on in life. What was it kind of made you think, okay, I need to change this. I need to get help?
Yeah, it had gotten to a point. I assumed that the best course of action is just full transparency with this, right? So I had gotten to a point where, my body had become very dependent, and in my late 20s, and I didn't really see there to be a way out of this whole life, or lifestyle, so to speak, if you want to call it that, a solution for my problems. And I had gotten to the point where I don't know if I'd call them a friend, an associate of mine, had suggested that there was a new clinic that had opened up in town. And up until this point, and I'm, we were going heavy early. If you're familiar with the literature of Alcoholics Anonymous in the Big Book, the first chapter being the doctor's opinion. And I love my father to pieces, and I am so grateful for all of his advice through all the years. But I'm also very fortunate that the doctor's opinion in the book is not his opinion, because he's a physician. And for a very long time, I was under the belief that I would outsmart treatment, and that was not the case. Somewhere along the line, an associate of mine had suggested that I go seek some guidance from this new clinic that had opened up in town. I was like one of the first 200 patients, right? Methadone clinic. And thought it was the solution. And it turned me into essentially a houseplant, because the fact that there was no driver for me anymore. I think I enjoyed that lifestyle as much as I did the pursuit of...
You're good.
Yeah, the lifestyle as much as I did the pursuit of, the chemical itself. Like, I got a release from both sides of it, sort of that edgy lifestyle and also the chemical release. So what that did was it took me out of the point where I could just sort of like be at the house all the time, which I wasn't getting out a whole lot, but me and this little guy right here sort of shared a lot of the same attributes. And that was probably the toughest part of my life, was in the late 20s, where it was just, I just existed, and there just was no motivation for anything good, bad, or indifferent. And finally I hit a point where, Bradley, I started losing time. There was just like blank points of like, I don't know what happened over the last couple of days. And in that, for a person like myself, thou shalt not injure myself or others. I didn't know what was going to happen. And for being somebody as destructive as myself, it was too risky. It was finally, for a person that really enjoys risky behavior, it was something where I just wasn't willing to.
So you were almost in fear of what might have transpired in the times that you have blankness.
Yes.
Because you would just not know what happened in the past couple of days,
No
and
idea.
knowing yourself as an individual as to what harm you could do to yourself and or others.
Yeah.
That was just getting really scary.
Absolutely. It was the unknowing. And it was, I didn't know what I was capable of at that point. And so I ended up going to my mom, God love her, and we sort of sat down and we're like, okay, let's look at a couple of options. And so at that point, I linked up with my father, the physician, who his father is also a physician, and we had our round table meeting, the three of us, and I will never forget it. It's very, very vivid. And my granddad, who recently passed, was a psychiatrist for many, many years, and very progressive in a lot of his beliefs and practices, this, that, and the other. So he laid out a couple of different options, and he said, one would be like an outpatient treatment that he helped kind of engineer and get off the ground back home. And I felt uncomfortable with that, because I would go for some intense therapy for most of the day, then be able to go home and just get right back to what I normally know how to do. The other option was he slid this small book across the table that said everything to know about ibogaine. And I was like, Grandpops, I don't know if this is the right call for me. And then the third being inpatient treatment. And I was like, that's what I think I have to do. It's not what I want to do, but I think at this point, I need to be removed from this situation long enough to catch my breath and figure out what a sobriety even is. As a mature is kind of a loose term here, but as a chronologically mature adult at this point, I didn't know what that looked like. I had been drinking and using since my teenage years. So at this point, I was like, wonder what that could even be like. And I had to be removed for this situation long enough to just catch my breath and just see. So that's where the journey kind of started.
And when you went into inpatient therapy or recovery, how old were you?
29.
29.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is okay. So gather teenage years to the late 20s, just substances, alcohol, harmful to yourself.
Absolutely.
And you were able to go into inpatient therapy, recovery, and it's stuck.
It's stuck.
For 11 wonderful years.
Yeah, I have done nothing outside of what's been suggested to me, but I am one of those one white chip guys. I was the recipient of a profound white light experience early on, and I was like, okay, all right. I'm going to be provided with some mentors that are going to give me some gifts in this journey, and if I just pay attention and, hammer down, there's been a lot of things along the path that I think have been assets to me, being able to maintain that. You hear sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly being thrown away. I was always the sometimes slowly guy. I'm the tortoise of my recovery. I just slow and steady. I've seen people chase fast money or everything else down here, and it ends up good for a while, good on the surface, falls off. More power to these people. But for myself, it's just, I really had to just focus on the foundation to be able to build all of that other stuff that I have today, and it worked for me.
And was going into the inpatient recovery, obviously going through withdrawal, hard?
Yes. What I didn't appreciate, I had no basis for it. Having the volume of methadone that I was on daily was
Please let everyone know what methadone is.
so that's going to be, I guess, an opiate alternative that can be medically prescribed. Right? That's a tricky one. I wish I had a formal clinical answer for it. But it's going to be something that is offered to the patient in some kind of regimented degree. I have a whole lot of other concerns and complaints on how that's done. But because it was at the time, it was kind of the Wild West with all that stuff. Yeah, I've heard it be referred to as like liquid handcuffs because it seems like a good idea up front, but my body became so dependent on it. So where someone may come off of another substance and be good in a couple days, weeks, mine was months.
So it's a pill. It's a drug. It's a chemical that's going to manipulate your chemical structure in hopes to get you better.
Right.
But for you, because every one of us is different, it did not have that effect. It had a more reverse kind of effect.
Yeah,
on you.
it did. It performed its job well as far as being supplementary to, the daily opiate use. And there's also some other chemicals that are involved with it that prevent you from using on top of it. So it's kind of in concept a good solution. The issue is that the half-life is so long that it gets into your system that trying to get it out of there is quite an undertaking. So it just, I found that as opposed to some of my peers that I was down here with, it was just taking me a lot longer to try to get some, even the cognition stuff, just being kind of in a fog for just months down here and being a little nervous. Oh, my hair just stood up. A little nervous, man, that like, I didn't know if it would come back. I was fairly intelligent when I was little, and I wasn't sure how much cognition I'd be able to retain or come back to. And the brain's pretty cool.
Dude, I'm getting into that now.
Yeah,
I got 3 books
it's,
here from Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I talk about a lot. And
Yeah.
he talks about the neuroscience behind everything, like your brain, your cells.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I've never been a studious person.
Right.
But like, I love reading now, and getting this information is just changing my life.
Yeah.
Like understanding the actual how and why things happen within your own construct.
Yeah.
And whatever this temple might be is mind boggling.
Absolutely.
That's like another episode.
the capacity to heal. I mean,
Yes.
what an incredible thing we're gifted with.
So
And,
when you were
uh-huh.
in there, when you were in the home, because a lot of people watch, a lot of the episodes that people talk about recovery, how difficult was it for you to join in the group activities where, we're sharing stories and we're talking about all the bad things that we've done or happened to
Absolutely.
us? It's very intimidating. A lot of people out there probably want to get help, but they're not even sure how to get help. And then, God willing, they go into something, they're, again, not going to know how to start that conversation. What was that aspect like for you?
Probably much more typical than I'm willing to give it credit for. However, being one of those self-proclaimed lone wolf kind of guys, that was the last thing I wanted to do was be social when I showed up. I remember we got like a phone call every week or something like that because it was very much inpatient. Like we were checked in. I had a couple belongings as far as like clothes and stuff like that, but we were very much shut off from the outside world for 6 weeks. It was a fairly long deal. And I remember one of the first opportunities to place a phone call, like I called my mom just in tears. And I was like, Mom, I'm just not like any of these people. Come get me, And slowly through the next couple of weeks, the progression of realizing that I absolutely am in this facet the same as all these people. We share the same exact thing that we're trying to find a solution for. So it was very difficult. But as my sponsor, Billy, would say, the fellowship has risen up around me. And now that I'm down here, it's a family that I have, and I could not be more grateful for it. But at the time, it's difficult to see that stuff.
Billy that I know, that's your sponsor.
It has
Oh,
been
brilliant.
It has been for over a decade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm his pupil or disciple,
Okay.
as they say.
Like his little brother.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
so cool.
Yeah.
So therapy was kind of difficult for you then because, and again, it's daunting. It's not easy to stand up or even just sit in a circle of people and just be vulnerable and tell them, the worst things that have happened to you. But over
Yes.
time you were, because I assume they kind of like let you, okay, and maybe not this week, but maybe next week you'll start talking, and then eventually.
Yeah, I tried to get pretty open and honest. I saw that there was some value to that, or the people that were having success had value in that. I found that the members or clients and patients that were just kind of full of shit just had a limited success rate at this stuff. So I was like, ugh, okay, I've been that guy for way too long. Let me try something else. Let me just go open and honest with this stuff. And I was willing to do the work. I don't know what happened. Something just changed in me because I was the kind of guy growing up where I wanted to outsmart everything. I was the guy that would spend 60 minutes to figure out how to save 20. Like it just never made any sense, And so I was like, this is finally something that I'm going to have to genuinely campaign, and I can't cheat it because it's just there's no success, or there's limited success in that.
It seems with everyone who sits in that chair that shares their experiences is that the success doesn't come until you're willing to tear down all your own walls.
Absolutely.
And if you're trying to bullshit it or just trying to get this piece of paper or this, like, yes, he's good enough to go back to, it's really not, you're not going to be successful when you go back out there, because out there is very difficult.
Yeah.
So you really do need to tear down your own walls. And as we try to be here, is just be as vulnerable as you can, because it's helping yourself. It's very cathartic when you share with people and you show that you're a human and that you can feel emotion. And on the other side of that is this great weight lifted off of you.
Absolutely.
Now that you're 11 years sober, what does sobriety look like on a daily basis for you, being that you're 11 years sober?
That's a wonderful question. Kind of on the premise of the honesty and all the stuff we're talking about, just sort of open it up. I hope to not piss off any people from the program out there, but this is just what's worked for me. I've been, through Billy, who's very, very much connected with all of the network of what that recovery is. He's had me by his side through a lot of it, and I've been very, very involved. I've also had other years where I've attended a meeting in a year, and it's been okay. It's been fine, because, again, this is my opinion, but I have yet to find the section in the big book where it talks about meeting attendance, and it's more about a conscious connection with a higher power, right? I do the steps to be able to find God through that process. I continue to strengthen that connection. So it's good to go to meetings, and I enjoy doing that, but it is not requisite for my sobriety by any means. Another thing that I got into that I love, maybe on a different time to talk about, kind of the mind, body, and spirit of how that stuff comes together, because I was broken in all three directions as far as that was concerned. I got into very formal, like, Buddhist meditation and became a member of the Dharma Center here locally, and did that for years. Less frequent now, but back in January for my mom's 70th, we both went to a meditation retreat, and it was fantastic. So being able to, be a guy that I could not sit still for 5 minutes, get in a seated position for, let's do 3 hours. Let's just chill out. Like, that's incredible, But it takes practice, and it takes a little bit of work to get there. I have no idea where I was going with that, but as far, the daily practice stuff, gratitude is a big one. It sounds super corny, but
Not on this show, because it's what we talk about all the time.
Okay, all right,
yeah,
fantastic.
100%. And just a quick pause there. Everyone that sits in that chair, we understand that it's their personal experience, and it's what's good for them, whether they're talking about recovery or they're just talking about how they live their life with gratitude and manifestation. It's that individual and this individual. This is how we do what we do to survive every day. And anyone out there that feels like they could use some help by trying any of those people's practices, that's what we're here for.
I love that.
100%.
I love
So,
that.
so for you, mind, body, and spirit, which is absolutely huge, AA does ask of you to find faith and a higher power, whatever that might be to you. And you're saying that gratitude is a big part of your daily staying on track.
Absolutely. And I think it's never automatic, but it is. I get a jump start when I wake up in the morning and I'm just like still awe-inspired. It's like, whoa, we're here now. We're here now. It's pretty powerful, you know. And granted, I've just like man of humble earnings, little house, you know, wonderful wife, the whole little bit. But for me, it is incredible that that I get to be an active participant in that daily. You know,
Isn't it a great feeling? It's a new practice for me. I've explained this on the past few episodes. As a human, ups and downs, ebbs and flows, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I'm not always the happy-go-lucky, positive, smiley guy that most people see out in the public. But the
Right.
thing is through the knowledge, through the information I gather from our guests, through the books that I read, through the information that I scroll on rather than the fakeism and nonsense, I've found different practices that allow me to recheck myself when I feel like the down's coming. And I've admitted this the past 6-7 weeks. My mornings have been tough because as soon as the brain turns on, I have a lot of negative, a lot of like, oh, here comes the loop. We're doing the same shit, blah, blah, blah. But then again, I came across information and it was like, why not take that opportunity to switch that train of thought? And my new practice is as soon as that moment of I'm now getting up, before I move out of my bed, before my eyes open up, I literally start saying to myself, I'm so grateful for having this opportunity to go about my day and be successful, even more successful than yesterday. I go as far as thanking God for the opportunity to do 1% better today than I did yesterday. I say to myself, I'm going to go have a great workout at the gym. So I'm putting intent on what it is I'm saying I'm going to go do today. I'm going to get home and have a wicked good recording with a guest. I'm going to do some editing. I'm going, like, all these things that I get to do, not have to do. And as soon as that happens, and it might be all of a few sentences in a couple of moments, I get up, I shower, I'm already in a better mood. And then when I do my actual morning practices, which is my meditation, my gratitude, and all the other things I do, by the time I leave the house, I'm in the car, I'm in my truck with a smile on my face. And it does feel better. And by doing those practices day in and day out and day in and day out, all of a sudden there's no negatives coming into my brain. Currently, they'll come again, but currently I wake up already inspired.
Absolutely.
So it's a brilliant thing, and it's absolutely true. When you can wake up and have that not just the emotion, but the feeling of the emotion. I mean, let's get it. Let's go do this day.
No doubt. Even as a small sample example, like coming in here, you know, feeling anxious, feeling a little nervous about it, and then just shifting to a place of gratitude that you'd have me on here to be able to do this, you know? And like what I was saying before, you know, I don't have any social media presence or anything like that. So this is kind of outside of my wheelhouse. But the thought of it being able to help one individual that connects with one thing, man, brother, thank you so much.
Oh, my absolute
you know?
pleasure.
It's a very
That's
special
a
thing.
huge thing that people need to know out there, that, you know, 2025 is a social media era. And everyone's worried about likes and comments. You're not on social media, which you're
I'm
so
aware
much
of
better
it.
off. But there's so much anxiety built in with it because there's so much pressure to
Yeah.
get all that stuff. And our whole thing here is, if one person watches this episode and one person decides to take one practice that we're offering and it makes their day better and we don't even know about it, that to me is what I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
Like, that fulfills me.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I've said this from the day one. I will always do this no matter what happens. I love conversating with people, sharing experiences, and getting that information out there to help other people.
Absolutely.
So 11 years recovery, awesome. The day-to-day is still there. You still have many things that you do to stay on track. I like what you said about there's no talk about attendance in the book.
It's not there.
It's whatever,
You know?
whatever you need to do to be
Absolutely.
successful each day.
And Bradley, I've got friends that they're like diehard meeting makers. More power to it. My grand sponsor is like a meeting every day guy for 3 decades. More power to you. You know what I mean? Like, whatever is that solution, because there's a whole lot of benefit from it. I just don't think it's for me necessarily a requirement. I am wildly grateful. Like when I first came down here, I had like, a home group for each day of the week, and I just going typical alcoholic, way overboard on everything, and so started to find out how to dial that back. And that's been a lot of this journey, is being able to sort of adjust the levels, like all this audio equipment, like really dialing in, like where I can really crank to one direction or the other, and sort of finding that elusive balance, so to speak.
It's amazing. And then being that you've already mentioned it, and I noticed earlier on you have a wedding ring, this is not always something that's possible when people are in addiction, because you are self-sabotaging, you are destroying
Yes.
everything around you, and it almost seems like that's might not even be a thought, that's a possibility in life, is to have a significant other that you can go through life together, especially when you've gone through something like addiction.
Yeah.
So when did that wonderful aspect of your life come into fruition?
Yeah, this is the such a bright spot in my life. I just love her to pieces. I'm gonna totally melt down. Yeah, it's an incredible thing, and not only that, Bradley, but the fact that I did not foresee in the future of myself being able to be a faithful husband that can contribute to a relationship like that, because it is contribution. It's a give and take. But I actually in the long list of things that Billy's done for me, we met through Billy, which is very interesting. And yeah, it's been an incredible part of my recovery. And I hear sometimes that folks are not encouraging of, two people that are sober in recovery, making a partnership out of that there may be other struggles. I think it makes us personally stronger, because we have such a window into each other's sort of thought process, and both of us are actively pursuing that solution, both individually and in common union with one another,
And every day. And since you've gotten to the point of probably sharing most of your deepest, darkest secrets, you both absolutely understand what it's like to be in that. So I would think it would be a brilliant idea. I understand the worries and the concerns is if
Right.
one person falls off, they both do. But the fact that you've both gotten through the darkness and you're both on this other side where the light is, and you both have faith and you both have your practices, and you understand the importance that you rely on each other as much as you rely on yourselves.
Yes,
Right?
exactly. Because we very much have independent recoveries, for what we need, whatever that daily medicine may be. However, I think that we also are a part of each other's to some degree as well. Sort of our little family unit that is very important. But we go to different meetings and sort of pursue that sort of stuff. But it is wonderful that we can come together and either, like something we just did just a couple months ago, big service picnic that Billy was kind of putting on, and we get to go out there and be an active participant in that and kind of help out where we can. Like the fact that we are able to share that is maybe not unique, but it is it strengthens
It's cool as fuck.
It's cool as fuck,
Right? Like when you really think
Absolutely.
about it, though, because there was a time where you were just like the opposite. You were not a good
Opposite.
person in society. You were horrible to yourself. You were horrible to others. You were addicted to chemicals and alcohol. And here you are now, getting to be an inspiration for other people. It's mind-boggling how life can just switch around like that for you.
It is. And knowing that, it does make me reserved in the fact that I know if it can switch one way, it can switch back. And just being aware of that daily is like, goes back to the gratitude thing. Wow, I've had one more day.
There's a quote, might be from the Bible. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
And the fact is like, there's a thing I watch another podcast with the actors, and Robert De Niro and Tom Hanks, I think, both separately had said this, is like, when you're not doing well and life feels horrible, just remember that this too shall pass.
Yeah.
But when you're feeling amazing and things are great and you're getting everything you want, just remember this too shall pass.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to be humble and
Yes.
modest, grateful and gracious, because you never know which side of that this shall pass you'll be on.
100%. 100%. There's something I think about, and I try not to be a downer about it, but I think awareness is important. And there's days when I wake up and I'm like, what a life beyond my wildest dreams, knowing that out on the horizon there could be calamity waiting. And it's like, okay, that's out there. There's nothing I can do about it right now. I'm just going to be in the moment with this as much as I can. The present moment thing is pretty big.
It's huge. Oh my God. We're going to talk about that on the next episode for sure. That's
Yes,
something I
sir.
talk about regularly.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, we are 8 billion people on a large rock floating through infinite space.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
shit's going to happen
Absolutely.
every day to somebody.
Yeah.
And it might be your day.
Yeah.
So you need to like, and again, like just like for me, the way I do it is taking the time to be grateful that today is good, knowing that I might not have tomorrow as great. Like
Yeah.
just really, and even in that situation, I said this the other day, if the moment that I'm appreciating becomes something I rather not, I'm going to appreciate it for what it is as well. And it's learning how to be responsive versus reactive. You know, like car breaks down. I could react horribly and get mad and pissed off, or I could be responsive and be like, you know what, that's okay. It's going to cost me a bit of money, but me staying here right now, dealing with my vehicle might be saving me from something worse out there.
Yeah.
So being present in the moment, we'll get into
Yes.
that on another episode. But to wrap today's episode up, the fact that you're married, you have sobriety, you know what it's like to have gone down that road. You're now an inspiration for other people.
It's wild to think about.
It's amazing.
It is.
And
It truly
and
is.
when you say body, mind, and spirit, there must have been some other things that you got involved in that allowed you to have some kind of passion towards something that keeps you going and keeps you out of that realm of destruction.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The, for me, just sort of like the academics of how baseline recovery worked, AA there's no replacement for it for me. I had to be immersed in some kind of 12-step program like that, which I'm so eternally grateful for. And then through some of the Buddhist practices and learning how to really still my mind was so beneficial to me. But then I still had this body, I still had this machine, and I was like, what to do that? What to do with that? And I came in much smaller than I was now, and learning how to rebuild that too, because just the beauty and miracle that is the healing process with everything. So, I had a lot of friends down here that were working out and this, that, and the other, and I had grown up in martial arts. And so this was something I had sort of parted ways with for some time, because you can't really be, under a whole lot of intoxication to pull that off. I tried for a little while, but it's kind of weird fast. So I kind of right out of the gate pursued that, and that has taken me to international places.
No shit.
Yeah. And,
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks, brother. I'm just some guy, right? It's interesting I'm kind of sharing on this show, but actually next weekend I'm going to be up in Orlando at this award ceremony getting inducted in the 𝐬𝐫𝐿 Martial Art Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Super congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
thanks, brother.
awesome.
I just sort of went after it. It's one of Billy's favorite stories. He's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know, like Filipino stick fighting. He's like, oh, okay. And so I did.
And you did it.
And I did it.
Wow.
So-
Okay. That's going to be a whole other long story.
Yes, sir.
I want to get into that next week. We'll have you back and we're
Perfect.
going to talk about that. This has been like an unbelievable,
Oh, man,
unbelievable
thank you so
episode
much.
for sure. There's so many people out there that are going to be grateful for being able to watch this episode. I'm grateful for you being here and sharing all this with me. And again, with like most of our guests, just the tip of the iceberg, dude. I'm already booking you for another
that's super cool.
like 2, 3, 4, 5
Yeah,
episodes.
no
Okay,
doubt.
you have that open invitation to come back whenever. So
thank you so
thank you
much.
so much
Absolutely,
for coming.
man.
We're gonna get into the topic about what you got into, and I'm assuming you became a master at it. So you're getting inducted to a Hall of Fame. So you must have
Something like that. I
so
don't know.
so we'll get into that, and we'll even get into the conversation of being present and what that grateful
Yeah.
moment is actually like for people, because a lot of people out there still aren't really on the bandwagon about it, and we're just trying to get that message out there about how important it is to be like that. So
Be the
thank you
spark.
so much. We'll have
Yeah.
you back real soon. I appreciate you. Thank you very much, everyone out there in the Lyfe Choices community. We appreciate you coming back each and every week. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. here on the Lyfe Choices podcast. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You are now about
The Journey, Life Choices podcast.